If you're dealing with a significantly strong gag reflex, this can present some troubling circumstances in your life. So in this video, I'm going to help you understand some of the more common underlying causes, but I'm also going to help you understand probably the most common underlying cause that most people don't know about, and a really simple way to figure out if this is the issue for you so you can turn this around. Let's jump in.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
So I'll put some links in the description below where I research some of these topics if you want to dig deeper. But you know, when they look at things like why would a person gag more than somebody else might? Like they can gag at the slightest little, and toothbrush went a little far back there, wow, you know, that can cause a lot of trouble. Or some people can just gag just seeing or thinking about something. So one issue is that it seems to be very common with younger children, and this is just viewed with all of us as a defense mechanism to keep the body from ingesting something foreign that it really shouldn't be going into the body like that. So this is just a defense mechanism where there are structures in that esophagus, throat, larynx area that kind of close and push backwards. So it's an involuntary motion that's taking place. And most children that are dealing with this tend to grow out of it, and it just seems to be accepted that that's an okay thing. You also hear about that it could be some trauma that happened to a person that has kind of caused this issue. And I could buy into that. I could see where there's some things that could happen in a person's life that could cause their gag reflex to be magnified a little bit. And we have to keep in mind that a person can have a physical triggers or mental triggers. And sometimes for some people it's going to be a combination of those things. Like some people won't really gag much, but they always gag at the dentist's office. You know, maybe I just hate the dentist. Maybe there's a lot of other stimulus there that's creating a magnification in that response. So the stimulus can come from physical acts. There's different areas in the back of your throat or in your mouth that when they're touched or stimulated, they can cause that gag reflex type of thing. And there are also mental triggers that can happen for some people for a variety of reasons. Like my older brothers and sisters are always telling me about how when I was really little, they were watching the Planet of the Apes episode, and I walked into the room and they showed a close-up of one of these men ape things talking, and I just threw up. Like it was just an automatic response to me freaking out to a big ape man talking. I'd never seen that before. So there are mental issues for a lot of people that seem to have a magnified response with this gagging issue. And also dysphagia. You hear sometimes that this can really magnify the gag reflex. And dysphagia is a situation where a person has a hard time swallowing. And I don't view this as a cause or even a strong correlation, because you see a lot of people with dysphagia that have almost no gag reflex. But that's a possible thing to think about. If you have that issue where you have a hard time swallowing, we'll put a link in the description below for our video on dysphagia that you may get more insights into how to improve that circumstance. But the most common issue that we see has to do with the body's ANS, or autonomic nervous system. And this is a system in the body that kind of runs a lot of the show behind the curtains. Like we don't have to think about breathing. That just kind of happens. And that system has two sides. It has a sympathetic fight or flight side and a parasympathetic rest and digest side. And both of these sides are important in different circumstances in our life. The body will move further into one of these states when it's appropriate. The parasympathetic side is where the body's going to move into to optimize digestive capacity and improve our ability to break our food down and digest and get all the nutrients out of that food better. And the sympathetic fight or flight side is triggered when we're presented with some type of stress. And the problem is that some people can get really stuck in one of these states most of the time. They're not really moving back and forth like they should, or maybe they just kind of exist way too far into one of those states most of the time. And that can happen for a variety of reasons. You know, a person could be stuck in that sympathetic state if they have a lot of stress in their life, or if the body is dealing with a lot of stress. Maybe they have some type of infection that the body is having to deal with. Maybe the body is not bringing in enough nutrients and it doesn't have all the nutrients it needs to function correctly. That can be stressful to the body. And those issues could push that person far into that sympathetic state. So where we tend to see this magnified, strong gag reflex is in individuals that are leaning way too far on that parasympathetic side. Now, this is not a diagnostic thing. You're not going to find a study. I've never seen a study of people indicating a gag reflex and being stuck in this parasympathetic state. But we actually use a gag reflex as a possible marker of a person being stuck in a parasympathetic state. Because when you're stuck in one of these states, it has the ability to present some symptoms or can cause some health issues. So we like to look at the bio-individuality of our clients and kind of look at their body chemistry and see if we can see where imbalances are happening, and that can sometimes give us indications of what steps would help improve the symptom or issue that that person is dealing with. So this gag reflex, we use it as a marker. We ask somebody, hey, when you stick your toothbrush too far back there, do you gag pretty easily? And if they do, we use that as a possible marker for someone leaning too far on that parasympathetic side. So something that you can look at home that's very easy to do is you can just look at your blood pressure. And you really want to look at your blood pressure at least 2 hours after a meal, like not right after you're eating, and also not first thing in the morning. It should be after a meal during the day. And you just want to be relaxed and resting. And if you take your blood pressure, you can take that systolic number, which is the top number, and then subtract the diastolic number. And the result of that is called a pulse pressure. So if somebody was 120/80, that pulse pressure would be 40. Now, the way that we view it is that if somebody has a pulse pressure that is lower than 37, we use that as a possible marker for a parasympathetic imbalance. If someone looked at their breath rate, if they just counted the number of inhales they were having in a minute, just set a little 60-second timer and then relax and count the number of inhales that you take in that 60-second period. If that's a little bit fast, maybe like 17, 18 into the 20 area, that can be another possible marker of a parasympathetic imbalance. So if a person was showing that their body chemistry appeared to be too far on that parasympathetic side, if somebody's pulse pressure is like 20, well, that's really far into that parasympathetic side. That may be like a screaming piece of information for them. So if that were the case, they could take steps to improve that imbalance and then see, does their gag reflex improve? Because it seems to be that when we see people that are leaning too far on that parasympathetic side, if they can improve that imbalance, some of the symptoms, like a magnified gag reflex, can also improve. If someone has a lot of seasonal allergies, that's another marker for a possible parasympathetic imbalance. So you can just kind of see, do I have a lot of issues that could indicate if this is a problem? If it is and I have a gag reflex, why not put some effort towards improving that imbalance? Another thing to consider is, do you have any digestive symptoms at all? If somebody has digestive symptoms like burping or bloating or acid reflux or constipation or diarrhea or nausea or indigestion or even skin or acne issues, all of those are signs that digestion is not working correctly. And a lot of people that are stuck in this overly parasympathetic state, not all, but a lot of them are stuck that way because the digestive process is not working correctly. So the body's trying to push itself as far as it can into that parasympathetic rest and digest state in an effort to magnify its ability to access nutrients in the food any way that it can. And when you can help the person improve those digestive malfunctions, all of a sudden that parasympathetic imbalance can improve. So if you haven't seen any of our other videos and you don't know how to determine digestive problems or fix them, my book, Kick Your Fat in the Nuts, chapters 3 and 4, kind of walk you through figuring out which aspects of digestion may not be working correctly and steps you can take to improve those. And the book is available on Amazon, but I'll put a link in the description below so you can get that whole thing totally for free, and then you can just jump to chapters 3 and 4 and investigate that. And that book also shows you how to run simple tests like this at home with tools you can pick up like at a pharmacy or a health food store, just to get an idea of where your body chemistry is and where imbalances may be going on. So this parasympathetic imbalance is not going to be the issue for everybody that has a gag reflex, but looking at the low amount of answers that are actually out there about this, why not just investigate that and see if this is a problem for you, and then that at least gives you a starting point of things that you can do to check that out. If you want to learn more about this autonomic nervous system imbalance, you can jump over right now and check out our video on understanding an autonomic nervous system imbalance. I can't wait to hear about your results.